My name's Ross Burton. I'm the Chief Financial Officer at Shared Services ACT. I have been since Shared Services was created back in February 2007 from a government decision to consolidate HR, finance, procurement and ICT functions. ICT had already been, centralised back in 96, but it was to bring it under one umbrella with HR and finance as well, and also with procurement. So that was across the ACT government, effectively around 26,000 users. And so they set up the organisation Shared Services, and we started that process. It was a transition of about 4 months to get pretty much up and going so that we could hit the February 4th date, and been through the journey of when the organisation first started to, different levels of maturity as time has gone by. And there has been modifications to the Shared Services model as we've gone on. Procurement has moved out and is now separate, and Shared Services has moved from being under Treasury to used to be Territory and Municipal Services, then back to Treasury, then under a new directorate called Commerce and Works, and then now back under Chief Ministers. So we've had a fair few AO changes during that time. So it's been it's been a very interesting ride. As I said, ICT was first centralised in 96, and I actually joined that organisation in 2099 to go through reconcile the Y2K expenditure, where the ACT government spent about $60 million on preparing for the world to end with Y2K. So the biggest issue we had back then when it was first centralised was about what were our costs and what were we efficient in relation to our charging, especially against our competitors or perceived competitors. Everyone effectively had to use the shared service, the ICT function going forward. We used to get a lot of criticism about our costs, saying, how were they derived? You're too expensive. And a lot of it was rhetoric. The agencies weren't happy when ICT was centralised in the first place because it took what they saw an element of power away from them, and also control. ICT spend in the ACT government from a shared service perspective is around $160 million a year. So they saw a portion of their budget, which was previously bearable, moving away from them. So they weren't overly happy with that model. Yeah, we felt a lot of pushback, especially around our charging and our pricing. So, and again, back then it was done a lot through Excel spreadsheets and things like that. So we looked around for a solution that would provide a much more structured approach to our charging and chargeback and our costings. And so, we went and basically explored the market. I'm saying this was around the early 2000s when we started this initiative, because I joined in about, as I said, 1999. So we went through that process and, did our evaluations, and, we decided that, ClearCost was the value for money option that we would go with. I know through that process, we just found that at that point in time, ClearCost was relatively small, I guess, and that we found that they were very personable in dealing with what we needed and what we required, and was empathetic to where we were at and what our journey was. So I think it was around 2004 that we implemented and started our journey with ClearCost. It's provided a great deal of structure, and it's been able to meet that objective, but also, the next thing, that even though we then had a structured approach to our charging, you would still get the issue that you're too more expensive than your peers and everything else. So in combined with that, we also started benchmarking ICT services in the first place, and then we progressed down that line. And that really, the benchmarking is what really stopped that conversation about we were too expensive, because we could actually provide them with the reports. And it's also in the budget papers as an accountability indicator, be within 5% of our peers, and we've been able to meet that every year since that was introduced back in 2006. So it just took a lot of the conversation away, a lot of the work away, which was really good from our perspective. It can let us focus on our business and what we needed to do at that point in time. When Shared Service was created in 2007, we then rolled out the costings, the use of ClearCost across the other services as well too. So even though it really started as an ICT tool, its capacity allowed us to be able to do that for both HR and finance as well, and procurement. So versatility was there, and we tapped into that in the use of ClearCost.
If I could I specifically ask you to summarise. It was really around the value proposition at the time. The cost benefit ratio was within the mix that you were looking for, and also the flexibility to build a working relationship with the tool. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, and the partnership with ClearCost, we just found it again, very personable, very, again, adaptive to our needs. If we had a question or we needed to go somewhere, nothing was too much in relation to what we could do or what was there. And, taking the time to work through that journey with them was invaluable to us, I think. So I just couldn't beat the value for money proposition back then, and I still can't beat it now, I think, in relation to what ClearCost can offer. Currently, at the moment, one of the big issues is on-prem versus cloud, and I think the work that's been done that we've just currently, gone through, 6-8 months ago, an upgrade with the new developments as such. I guess it put it through a process of being able to highlight some of our back-end processes and what we needed to do to actually improve in that space. Moving a lot of our on-prem applications and that with the new developments as such, I guess it put it through a process of being able to highlight some of our back-end processes and what we needed to do to actually improve in that space. Moving a lot of our on-prem applications and that, and even infrastructure to the cloud offset. And again, it allowed us to be able to focus on these are the costs that we are currently carrying, and we need to do something about these and reducing that to get the offsetting savings once moving to cloud. Otherwise, there'd been a tendency in our business just to repurpose items rather than actually reduce. Being able to actually have a tool which allowed us to individually identify these systems and costs, then enabled us to be able to focus on them and to ensure that we were actually reducing those existing costs, whatever, while we're incurring additional costs. So in that one area, more recently has been super beneficial from our perspective to get down to that granular type of level of detail and be able to see that. And also the information that we started to see even from day one was around what was our service costings versus what our charging was, and what was our profitable services versus non-profitable services, and why that was the case. As again, it was a lot of rhetoric, even internally, about, we still need these people to do these things and we need these people to do, this, and there's no reduction as such. But when you got the evidence there and you can produce a report which shows, we're actually losing money on this service and these are the reasons why, they can't argue against that, and then you're in a much more defendable position having that structure to do that. So I think we've really been able to benefit from having the tool like ClearCost available. Again, it's just to give us that structure and as being able to show them through a proper process that these are the facts and this is the fiction. I think that's what has really helped us moving forward.
Great. So stakeholder management has been a real benefit.
Yeah, definitely internally, and I think, and as I said, the external benefits from having that as well too has been invaluable to us. Obviously, their knowledge of the tool, they built it from the ground up, and they knew intimately how it actually worked and that sort of stuff. So I think that technical expertise, but also the industry expertise. The product has been quite widely used by a number of organisations, and feeding back that input from where the industry is going. Again, initially ICT charging, whatever, but even the taxonomy that is being utilised by other organisations. So I guess those insights I find also as invaluable, rather than just here's a tool, a technology or a tool that you can utilise, actually assisting you with utilising it within industry norms, but also providing that framework and trying to get the best out of it for your organisation is where the value add is to say, well, yep, I know you currently do it, you're doing it this way, but have you thought about this way? Or maybe utilising this option as well too, or here's another alternative, or here's another way that you could go about doing it. That's what you want, people providing you with those things, because you can get very much set within your business and how you want to do things. You don't look outside too much, and you're saying, I'm achieving what I want to here, but there's so much more potential there. I really want to tap into those things, and I think ClearCost has been able to provide that to us. On every occasion that we've gone back and effectively done a bit of a market scan or test, ClearCost has always come out way ahead of its competitors, just where it sits in relation to how much it costs versus, what it delivers as such. So we do it very regularly. And again, our business overall, 160 million ICT with HR and finance, and that we're around $216 million is our annual budget as such. So the investment just in the tangible and intangible benefits have been great. And, for me, it's been an extremely positive, return on investment through the use of ClearCost. One of my, aspirations is interesting service costing, the same way we have done within shared services across the whole of the ACTPS would be, it's essential you can understand the cost of your service so that you can make informed decisions going forward. And the ClearCost tool is very apt for that. But like we, say initially use it as an ICT tool, but we've been able to expand that across HR and finance. And I see no reason why it wouldn't give me the flexibility to do it across health services or correctional services or institutions across the ACT government. I think that it has that flexibility and structure to be able to do that, and that the functionality that would accommodate being more broadly used across the APS. I think that's the strength of the tool, is that it's purely just not an IT tool, but it's the people supporting the tool as well. All the consultants that we've worked with the ClearCost have been very good from a technical perspective, but also from, an industry perspective in helping us look at options and how we could best utilise those tools. So I think that the tool is well suited and would be a value for money proposition for almost any organisation across the APS. As I said, it'd be my aspiration is to be able to roll that service out further and be utilised by all organisations in the APS. I'm really excited about, the next stage of where ClearCost is going. And I think that for a long time, ClearCost has sort of been working in a space and it's sort of been, ticking over as such, whatever, but it's also now moving to a level of maturity, is in its cycle as well too. So it needs to be looking, what's next on the horizon as well too. And I think they're taking the opportunity now as seeing that and going, yep, this is where we need to get to. And a lot of that is around the reporting side, I think, is where I see the real benefits, is getting more of that stakeholder engagement by providing that information that is contained within the tool, but presenting it to the different audiences and at the different levels that is required. So from my costing team, who requires a lot of detailed information, right up to chief executive officers and other CFOs that, I'm dealing with, is to give them that snapshot or picture that gives them that higher level understanding. But also, as I said, other stakeholders internal to the business, I want to really roll it out to the internal stakeholders, whatever, and make them accountable as too. And I see this as where ClearCost is going to give me the tools to be able to do that, I think, much more easier than it has been in the past. So I think if we want to drive more efficiencies, it's making those people who own the service far more accountable for the finances where they have been in the past. And they don't need to understand the tool to go forward. If I can develop that power, the reporting side of things, that's all they need to do is that evidence. Some people are much more visual than number-based. Mainly accountants are number-based, but more of those in the service areas are definitely more visual, and that's where I think I'm going to get better bang for my buck going forward. And I'm excited that that's where ClearCost is going as well too. So really developing the look and feel and the performance capability, the reporting capability to the variety of stakeholders that can utilise that information. My experience with ClearCost has been extremely positive, and it's definitely been the best product for our needs, and I'm looking forward for where we're heading to in the future and continuing that journey with ClearCost.